Good morning, guys. Set that aside for right now. Welcome in. Trying to straighten up a little bit. I was a little disorganized this morning. We had a little bit of snow and some sleet and rain, and so just trying to get around this morning. Morning been a tick. Yeah, I don't know what you mean by that, but it has been. It's been a little bit rough around here as far as weather. Jenny, my wife, is home today. Good morning, Dawn. How you doing? At least this morning they're doing a late start, so she has to go in here in a little bit. Down there, but. Yeah, David, how are you doing? Hey, OBS Carter, how you doing? I wore a blister on myself yesterday. Those of you that were in here yesterday when I was working on that piece of Horse Creek, this is the Dalton that I ended up getting out of that. Try to get it where you can see the, there we go. Yeah, now, David, it's been a little bit kind of crazy. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's, and it's weird because the number of people, like today, I can already tell you there's more people coming in today, right now, like I didn't. Thank you, Don. I appreciate it. I didn't have ever since all that or right before that happened, just the volume of people that were coming in and out of the rooms or that were, interacting and talking and stuff, excuse me, had dropped off severely. I think that there's still some, they're still trying to figure out everything as far as the compensation stuff and the taxation of that stuff and all. And I'm sure, they'll either get it figured out or they won't, but there's a lot of people, it's kind of like we were saying yesterday, there's a lot of people that have kind of made this their livelihood, and that when you start, out of nowhere saying, okay, we're going to do this to your job, it kind of makes a person a little bit nervous. So I'm hoping that they'll get everything kind of sorted out and we can get back to somewhat of a normal deal again. So yeah, I think today, like I said, I was going to, when Terry or Bubba, those guys that were in here, I'll set this one right here next to my coffee cup. That's the one I made yesterday on the live. I finished it up obviously after. Well, thank you, David. Well, I guess if I could say, that I would do this as my job, I would. I love this. I love teaching and sharing. And thank you for the follow. Is it FL or Phi? Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. I do. I enjoy sharing this information with people that are interested in it. That's the unfortunate thing is, like I said, when people want to appreciate you for doing what you do, and then the way that they've got all this set up, like, there's people that are saying they're going to lose their subscription benefits. Well, then they can't resubscribe because right now, I guess, Brad Brizzo Anderson was saying yesterday that I guess you can do it if you go on a laptop or on a computer, but most people don't access this format on a laptop or a computer. It's mainly phones, and that's the reason it's so popular, is because it's so mobile. But like I said, I just enjoy sharing with you guys and being able to come in, talk shop with a few folks, and I'd hate for it to go away. So I'm glad you guys are all in here. Yeah, I think today, well, I'll see how I'm feeling here in a minute. If I'm feeling like I'm on my game, I've got a really, really pretty piece of of Rainy Buttes. This is petrified wood, or it's just crazy ironized. It's just almost, this stuff looks like chocolate. I mean, and this is a pretty decent piece. There are some seams and stuff that run through it, but I think if I favor this side a little bit, I should be able to get, I'd like to get a nice fulsome. Bent Creek, how you doing? I'm doing good. I'm just, Frank, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Yeah, this is some really nice stuff. I got this from a guy, his name's Steve Lemons, is were the supplier of it. And it is some super fine stuff. That's what I say. I want to make sure. Cody, good morning. No nap pun today? Well, I don't know what you mean, Kenosha. But this stuff it's just as, it's for this material, it's super slick, but yeah, I'm kind of hung up on the fulsomes again here. I got a harder hammerstone. Oh, gotcha, Kenosha. Yeah, the guy's name is Steve Lemons. Yeah, it just depends on. I mean, Steve said he had a lot of it when I talked to him. This actually, I had a guy that wanted me to make him a point, and I don't typically, do like an order, so to speak. I make stuff, and if people like it, then they can purchase it. But he told me he didn't care what I made him. He just wanted a point out of Rainy Buttes. And I said, I don't have any Rainy Buttes material. And he said he got a hold of Steve and then told me to call Steve, gave me his information or his, all that. And he purchased a box of this stuff and had it sent to me to make him a point. And then I made him the point. Yeah, it's, Paul, I'm sure, depending on a lot of the areas where it's found there, Steve said he had quite a bit of it. So I don't know. I mean, but there again, I don't know for sure. He may have just been saying that to get me to buy a box of it or something. But anyway, this guy bought me this, bought a box of this, sent it to me. I made a little Clovis out of it, and then I haven't really messed with it a whole bunch after that. I made a Dalton here a ways back. I think I posted a picture of. And it was just out of a little small spall of it or a flake of it. Wasn't a big point. But this stuff, like I said, I don't like to work it unless I feel like I'm kind of on my game, because it is just anytime I get to work different material, it's special to me. But especially this, this is just like really primo stuff. It's funny, I had this set out yesterday to work and just didn't really, feel like it. Oh yeah, this stuff is, when you find the right combination, Kenosha, with the hammerstone and the consistency of the material, this stuff is just fantastic. But you can see I'm trying to, when it gets to these seams, I don't even know if it's quartz, it's just open seams in there, then it gets a little funky. So and you can actually see the line of it right there in the end. So what I'm trying to do is to remove this and leave that angle, or that plane of that point is going to run like this. So, but yeah, I like working the stuff because it's well, where Clovis and Folsom people were, and that if this material was there, it's kind of a healed up. I hope that stays healed. That's pretty. It was a material that was very much utilized by the indigenous people in that area. So they realized how special and nice it is, Well, and that's, oh Noah, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Yeah, Paul, that's the thing, and that's why, like I said, unless I feel like I'm, on my game, I typically won't work stuff like this on a live because, I'm trying to concentrate on you guys. And no, this comes from like South Dakota, like the corner, the southwest corner. It's the Clovis people, not the area that they were named after, or that the culture was named after. So that's where a lot of people get all confused, and they say, "Oh, it was what happened to the Clovis people?" Well, the Clovis people are still here. They're the Folsom people that became the Cumberland people, that became the Dalton people. It's the same people. All that we see in the lithic record is changes in their technology. That'd be like saying, at the turn of the century, you were going to be a Ford people or a Chevy people. But we've had technological different, changes and stuff, and now you could be a Kia people, and that's what a lot of people, they think about it in terms of, this is a group of people that made these points, and then now they're gone, but now you've got these people. It's the same people, it's just their technology evolved. All right. Yeah, this is some really, really cool material, and I am hoping that I can do it justice. Again, I've got those seams right here. So, and guys, if I spend a little bit more time studying today, I apologize. I'll make sure I'm watching for comments here. Be able to get a little small flake out of our little. Well, I appreciate the confidence, Paul. Just trying to make sure I get that plane of what I'm trying to save in this thing. Take that off. Thank you, OBS. I was just, I was trying to keep that really, really still because I didn't want that flake to dive too much. I was just trying to kind of even out that area that was a little bit of a lump there. I'm trying to work around these seams, and that one went right up to it, which was nice. Yeah, it's pretty cool. A lot of this white that you're seeing here, though, is not what, it's right here. This is where I flaked through it. You can see that's in the rock. And if it stays together, it makes it look really cool. But if it doesn't, it makes it for, a two-piece point. But this stone responds really well to a nice, like a soft hammerstone or antler percussion. I mean, I'm just dragging that edge, and it just pulls off these little blendy flakes. It's like I was saying yesterday when we're talking about reducing this stuff. Any kind of rock it's these little edge turning setup flakes like these. I'm basically just flattening this area here and trying to bring this edge towards this face. Because that's where the line of my point is. I'm trying to imagine in this piece where I'm trying to get that arrow, the projectile or the blade or whatever to be in it. So now on some of these steeper platforms, I may need to go back to the harder hammerstone, but we'll see if this one's pretty soft and grainy. Not trying to take much, just adjusting that edge. See, when I'm trying to swing that hard with that, that's where it's. Brizzo, good morning. See, I was just trying to get that to match up to where that other one went to. And it was a little bit steeper platform, and usually you want a little bit harder hammerstone on a steep platform like that. Liberty by Dawn, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. See how those are just going right out into the center of that and just flattening that. And that's what we're trying to do, is to get that start, you know, the convexity. And what this is going to do is I'm trying to turn this edge so that I can come back and flake these quartzy areas off, and I might be able to, I mean, you know, it'd be cool if they stay together in the piece, but realistically it's better if I get rid of those, because, you know, the likelihood of one of them coming apart is high. So but guys, if you have any questions or, you know, any of that, just feel free to ask them. Like I said, I'm going to do my best to pay attention to the comments and still pay attention to the rock, but you know, I have no issues with questions. Trying to curl that one around the tip of that, just to kind of start turning that edge. You can kind of see how that turned this, and what it did is it gave me another ridge here to start getting this face. I'm trying to, same thing I usually do is I pick a face on there that I'm trying to get, you know, once I get the major removals done, I start getting a face that's flattened off and cleared off, start building that convexity, and then work to the other side. And there's a little bit of a nub right there on the end of this that I don't care for, but I think this flake should go right across that ridge. Just like that. It's not a big removal, but you can see it just went right down that ridge. Got another little ridge left over from it. It's a little steep though. There it went. You can see how that's got this side kind of flattened out, but we're starting to come in from the edges. Liberty by Dawn, for beginners, you know, I tell everybody, whatever you can get your hands on that breaks like it's supposed to. You know, here a 3 weeks ago, this is a piece of TV glass that I made into a Clovis. This is a 40-ounce beer bottle bottom that I turned into a Dalton. It's a piece of toilet tank porcelain that I turned into a Dalton drill. whatever you can get your hands on to learn would be the best for a beginner. Now, that being said, if you've got unlimited resources and you just want to spend money, I mean, you can always just buy rock from reputable dealers. But it's like I tell people, when you're first starting out, you're going to break so much stuff. You're going to screw up a bunch of stuff, and it's going to be frustrating. And it's better if you can be frustrated with free stuff. You know, I mean, it is for me anyway. I don't know. I mean, like I said, if depending on people's, you know, station in life, but I just don't, to me, to buy a bunch of material that I know I'm just going to bust up and it's going to not be good, I would rather do that with some glass or some, you know, free material. Anything that you can find, though, I work a lot of self-collected material from my area. Okay, well, if you've got a lot of chert, that's what I would start with. You know, anything that's now, there'll be a lot of it that'll be fractured, and but just spend time hitting it. I mean, that is seriously what it takes to learn how to do this. Is you just have to hit rocks and keep hitting them, and watch videos and ask questions. What area of the country are you from, if you don't mind me asking? But yeah, we did a little series on what I was calling trash napping, to show the alternate, you know, materials that are out there that you can work and make points out of. Yep, flint napping tips on YouTube. Marty is awesome. Spent a lot of time watching his videos. Don, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Southwest Missouri. Really? I'm in Northwest Arkansas, Liberty. So yeah, I know the chert that you have. What, just roughly, you don't have to, thank you for pinning that too, guys. I appreciate it. Because I did miss it. You know, you don't have to tell me exactly, because this is, okay, yeah, well, if you know where Pea Ridge. Oh, right on, Carl. Yeah, because I'm in between Pea Ridge and Garfield, Arkansas. I'm, you know, just across the line. That's what I got. Then Justin, I think Justin's still in here. He lives just about an hour south of me. He's coming up here Monday. You guys we'll have a guest napper in here for the first time during Monday's live. But yeah, I came out here this morning. I had to do some adjusting around. Oh, Mikey, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. But yeah, heck yeah, Justin. We're gonna have fun. But yeah, I came out to the KVO this morning and heard water drips. Oh, right on, Don. I'm looking forward to it too, Paul. Oh, here comes my drips again. If you guys hear the drips in the background, I've got my Horse Creek bucket over here that I got the Horse Creek shirt in, catching water that's dripping through in my KVO. Got a couple of spots here. But Don, this is, I made these here the other day. These are like a Caveman wristwatch. Yeah, well, Justin, it's right where you sit too. No, I'm just kidding. No, but it's like right here off my right side. Yeah, Super Dad. Well, if you're in Rolla, that's what I just had another person from Rolla, Missouri, in here, and somebody else that was close. Carl is close. I mean, seriously, guys, that's, you know, well, I don't know how far Rolla is. Probably 30, 45 minutes from me. 45 minutes, I guess. Somewhere in there. Well, no, it's a little farther than that. But yeah, I'm just between Pea Ridge and Garfield, Arkansas. But I made these the other day out of some little baubles that I had made a couple, 3 years ago. I bought. Oh, really, Don? Do you? I mean, what was his name? I might know who it is if it's somebody that's. You want to go hunt diamonds? I've never been down to the diamond crater. We got a few inches in Warsaw, yeah. Yeah, I tell you what though, I bet you guys are catching them crappie up there on the lake, aren't you? George Wilson, I know the name. I do know the name. My drip has moved over. Hold on. All right. Had to adjust my bucket over there. This is some high-tech stuff you got going on here, guys. I'm telling you. DJ, good morning. Let me clean my glasses so I can continue to read the stuff here and not smack myself in the fingers. All right. Yeah, that's Don. I recognize the name. Yeah, Brizzo, you're down closer to that's Murfreesboro, right? Isn't that where the diamond mines are? All right, guys. A little after the little interlude, but this is where we're at right now. Now that one flake I got out here left me with a little bit of a thick area right here off the tip. So, you know, I don't like having. You can see it right there. You see that swooped area, that mass up here. That's going to make that more likely to want to break, and especially having some quartz seams in here. I want to take this mass off the tip. Yeah, I've never been to the diamond mine. I'd love to go. Like I said, I've lived in Arkansas. I was born in Rogers, but I've lived here back down here since the mid 80s, and I've never been. See, I just a nice, easy little flake. You can see how much of that mass that took off in just that one shot right there. But yeah, I know the name George Wilson. I remember it. That's perfect. Just trying to roll one right across the next ridge that created. And see how that extra mass that we were talking about, how that's almost gone now, and now all of our mass is right in this area here. All right, we've got a pretty good working edge. I'm gonna try to set up to take this area off and leave us with the preform in that. So I'll try a little bit of punch work. I'm gonna see, learning to make rocks where I can get. Well, Jesse, it depends on where you live. Well, Fitz, if you'd like to come and sit in, absolutely, man. Monday. He's going to come in on Monday. He said he'd be here about 7. If you want to show up at about the same time, we can set you up off camera, and that'd be great. If you feel up to it, dude, heck yeah. Yeah, that's my buddy there. That's AKA Tender Weasel. Yeah, Jenny says, let's make it a party. Because she's off work. Justin, you work for the city there. My wife, she works for Benton County. She works in the the accounting department at Benton County. Yeah, she says, we'll have snacks. That's how I lure them in, guys. That's how I get them here. We offer snacks and they never leave. Well, awesome. Well, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, Shane was going to come over today. The weasel was coming over today, but had some stuff going on, and that's my mojo buddy. We'd sit in here and solve the problems of the world. Now, yeah, this is beautiful material, Blake. You don't have to do that, Fitz, but I wouldn't say no to the donuts and the kolaches. But you can see how I'm continuing to set this area here up to where it's going to isolate, and that's where that mass and those quartz veins are. And okay, well, good. Paul, thank you. I missed where he was at because of the other comments coming in. Sorry about that. Jesse, I apologize. But yeah, depending on where you live, there's Paul. If he's from that area, he's got some big stuff that he was just talking about working. So, whoop, I'll pick that one out of the pile later. See, I was just I took that flake so that I could start lowering this and set up a platform to take this area here off. But yeah, Blake, this is where it's nice material, but a lot of it is not rushing it and not trying to take too big of flakes too soon. Just picking around the edges of it to build that convexity. You can see how this side here, we've got most of the convexity is gone, or is in place. Most of the removable stuff is done. As far as, flattening it out, this flake right here will be nice for the whole end of that. Yeah, that's a little small. See, that went all the way up into here. But that whole face is about flattened out now, so we'll just concentrate on the other side. Yeah, and again, Jesse, sorry about that, but yeah, I wouldn't have been able to tell you in that region anyway. That's one of the other things I really like about this format, guys, is that, I know how to get around here where I live, but you start, Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi, I think I just saw Nomad come in earlier. That's like Indiana. I know, I think that's where Ed's from. Those guys know and Don doesn't live too far from the Flint Ridge and that kind of stuff, I don't think. So, there are people with much more, local knowledge than I have, for sure. All right. See, I'm trying to get those. You can see how those two just matched up right there in the center. Excuse me. And what that is doing, it just continues to create ridges, but I don't want to remove those just yet because I want to try to get this area of quartz veins out of it before it gets too thin, so that I don't break it. So, See, it's like I say all the time though, guys. You see how well, it's funny you should ask. That's exactly what I was doing right there, Blake. Was just picking out, and I was just getting ready to say it's those little flakes like that, those edge dressing flakes. You see, that's not a very big flake that I just took off there. But the contour that it created is important. Same thing there. These are almost like little pressure flakes. And all it's doing is creating a steeper beveled edge on this side. Now there's my lowered area for this mass over here. So what I'm going to do now is you want to make sure that you isolate that. You can see how this whole area is dropped down and it doesn't really stick out a whole bunch. If I try to take too big a flake off there, a lot of times it'll lip and it'll take a big section of that, especially with this seam that's running close to it. So I want to try to, excuse me, try to isolate it. See this little flake right there? Now I want you to see the difference and how that, see now how that energy there, it has nowhere to go but this direction now. Before I took that flake could have spread out, and it still may spread into this over here a little bit. But what I'm going to do is go to a larger punch, and I'll switch back. I know it's almost out of frame, but all I'm going to do is the same thing with this that I do with the smaller one. Really like the angle of that though. I've got a little bit of a low spot right in here, so we may have to take another flake to get to that. So see, I can feel my hand jumping. That's bad technique on my part. I need to see, when I held that one still, or at least more still, and when I do that, it increases my accuracy. All right. I think it kind of took what I wanted off there. That went right along what was left of that seam, and took that. It's about kind of like a big flute basically, but you can see what that did to our profile. That will definitely make a point. And it cleaned up the seams that were in that. Thank you, Blake, I appreciate it. But now we've got, that area is flattened. Now we've got this other side over here. And since it's such a steep flake, you can see how steep that is, and I don't need really long flakes. I just need something that's going to roll over this ridge right here. Like that. That just went right over into the middle. Callie, good morning. And that's where that area was at. I've got, you know, now the area that we got to worry about is this side. It looks like there's one tiny little seam up here. We'll hope it holds together, because this is definitely a nice piece of stone for sure. Now this is one of those, Blake, where you were just asking about steeper platforms and angles. You can see how this area, and this is part of the original, that's the last little bit of the original cortex, or outside of that rock that I got. Well, there's a little piece there. But instead of using a hammerstone and having to really adjust the edges and losing a lot of size, what I typically do is I'll try to sneak up to either side of it with small, like right here I've got a place where I can hook into this, push a flake this way, and then kind of almost zigzag that without losing near as much. You see how I can just walk right along the edge of that. It's almost like pressure flaking on steroids. It's just these big pop out, you know, type flakes. And then try to leave it in a spot where I can adjust the tip. You can see how that took some mass off the top of that, and it isolated this side here. So once we get to this stage, this is where, you know, like kind of like we were yesterday, or anybody that was in, this is that Dalton that I was working on out of that Horse Creek from Terry yesterday. It is a beautiful piece. But this is kind of about the stage that we started that one. This is a little bit thicker at this point, but pretty close. Now this is a little bit bigger than that one was for sure, but it's at the same stage of reduction. Thank you, Brad, I appreciate it. Justin, thank you. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, that piece of rock was just working. I mean, when they work right for you and you can just feel them, I mean, that thing is just, and it's, you know, it's nice and lenticular from base to tip, and that's one of my nicer Daltons. I really, really do like that. I love the stone and the way it turned out, so. All right. Blake, if you're still in here, you can see this edge right here, and you see how steep and messed up that is right there. If I try to strike along this edge here, I'm going to end up with short flakes that are going to completely adjust this. All I need to do is to take and kind of blend this area into that. And I use like a modified zigzag for a lot of this kind of stuff, because especially with the smaller tip on a punch or a smaller tool, you could put it in a finer spot and just take, and you see I didn't hit that hardly at all, but that adjusted the top of that ridge right there. And now I've got a place where I can kind of take off from either side, and it's going to isolate this mass over here. And all I'm doing is just putting a less severe bevel. Whoop, that jumped a little. There it goes. I just didn't have enough angle on it. And I'm just taking these little bevel flakes, just little rounded flakes that are turning that edge. Now you can see how that edge, the angle is not quite so steep. Justin, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Guys, we're getting close to 5,000, and I'm going to give this harden away. We get 5,000 followers on the channel, and I'm going to mail that to somebody at my cost. So if you know anybody that likes this kind of stuff, invite them and have them come in and follow me, and give everybody a shot at that one. See, that's one thing about this stone, though. You can see it on my hands. That it's orange. It's like rust. John, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. And that's what this is it's petrified wood, but it's got a high iron content, and it is almost like rust. Okay, that's the last couple of little flakes off that. Now I'll show you what it looks like compared to what it did before we started turning those. You can see how that edge is not near as sharp now, and I've got an isolated platform and a ridge right behind it. But rather than go right at that, I've got another smaller ridge right up here with mass that needs to come off. Always take off the mass on the tips and the bases before you do the center. See, and that just went right across and all it did is it isolates that area even more. Now I'm going to do some of this with pressure flaking the setups on this, just to make sure that I don't, because like I said, this is some really nice rock, and I just don't want to take the chance of going too fast on something and try not to get sloppy with it anyway. All right. You're welcome, Blake, and that's, like I said, that's one of those things that I would almost guarantee that you're trying to go into it too steep of an angle and you're getting a bunch of hinges or step fractures. That flake goes in at a real steep angle and then stops. Right on, John. Yeah, that's all I use is stone and antler. Yep, and that's what I say. You know, that's why I try to tell people that if you see these little flakes, these are not big removals, but what they are is they're results of just, I mean, look at that's just a little tiny flake, but what it's doing is building convexity into this piece so that I can remove the bigger flakes. And, you know, it's like we had a guy in here yesterday that was trying to tell me how to, you know, and I kind of reiterated that, you know, when you try to go after the big flakes too soon, you end up kind of shooting yourself in the foot, and then you got to go back and fix those issues. And it's better to bevel your edges and get everything set up the way you want it to, and then make those removals so that you're not fixing you know, the screw ups and losing a lot of your material. Because once you get the convexity built into the piece, then the big flakes are easy. Because it's not how hard you hit, and it's about giving that energy a place to go and directing it. Well, you can, William, get it with the fractured up stuff, but mainly the steps and the hinges and all that stuff, that's either you hit in too steep of an angle, like you tried to take too much material, or you didn't have enough force. That's really the only thing that when a flake stops short, a hinge where it rolls out, typically is that, it was too deep. And there was not, you were throwing it into the mass of the rock, and there wasn't enough energy to keep that pressure wave shooting through the rock, so it's looking for a way out. That's what a hinge is, and that's when it's got that rounded edge at the back. A step fracture, or a step, is when the flake goes in and you can still see where it kind of tried to keep going, or it stopped on a square edge. And that's a step, and it's typically the same thing. You lacked enough energy or support to carry that flake through. That's why you guys will see me kind of support underneath the flake, and it almost always breaks right where that turn is. Well, if you hold that force together, it keeps pushing it through the rock, and that's how you can get longer flakes that way, just by supporting underneath that flake. You see that, I catch most of the flakes that come off here because my thumb or my finger is right underneath the platform, because I'm trying to give it support and hold it together so that it has, like there, and it can turn and transfer that energy. Nikki, thank you for the follow. Oh, absolutely, John, and that's what I was telling everybody with this, is if I end up, not talking as much today, I apologize, but this is, this was rock that it's getting harder to come by, and this is a really, really nice piece of it, and I didn't buy it, but I did some work for it, so. I don't mind as much pecking around on my local stuff. I can go pick it up all the time, but this is not something I get the opportunity to work very often. And this definitely was used by the Folsom, Clovis, well, any of the cultures that lived in the area where this stuff was found, they utilized it, because it is it's awesome material. All right, let's take this flake here, and then we're going to work this other side. This is getting ready to, it should flatten out pretty quick. Let's see, because I waited until everything was set up correctly for that piece and not rushing it, I built in convexity into that, and that flake went transversely. Yep. That's exactly, I could tell as soon as I struck that piece, Blake, that, you could see this, it goes all the way, you can see it buckling up over there on the other side. This flake went from just inside the edge here, all across the top of that piece. And had I tried to do that before that, then it would have ruined the convexity of the piece, and I would have not, gotten near that. That altered the, flattened that out really well, and now I've got another ridge coming back from the other direction. It's raining again. I can hear my drip starting back. And there's the other one that one actually did wrap. but not enough where it caused an issue. It went right to, I felt it touch my finger where I had the support at. You can see how it took just a little bit of that margin off this side. But what it did in the process, this is, when you hear people talk about paleo flaking, transverse, or ultra pass, it's from edge to edge. It's a French term that basically means, but that is very, very indicative of paleo, especially Clovis flaking. That's, and I know that, you know, realistically they were setting up edges like this because, yep, overshots, but it was a technique that was used by the Clovis people a lot. A lot of the preforms that you find, and a lot of the finished stuff even, will have these big, huge transverse all the way across. There's no, I mean, this is a flake from here, and then this was a flake that came from this direction. And they just lined up, and now I've got another ridge. But setting up to do those on purpose when they're not going to really screw. You see, I did lose a little bit of that edge, but if you look at it, it's still within, you know, it's still in line. A little brushing off of this. Get a good spot on the hammerstone here. I'm going to take a little blending flake right off of that ridge. Not a big flake, but just to blend it in. See, that just ran right up there, right up that flake. Oh, we're going to have to do the puzzle piece. Give me just a second here. They love getting me out of my rhythm, I think, because I was feeling like this thing is working pretty good. All right. Let me settle in again here. Well, William, when you set it up correctly, it absolutely sets your. I mean, if you look at the profile of that piece where those flakes came off, they like to travel in a curve, so you still have that convexity. You can see that it's still basically a dome, and I'm getting ready to remove this right here, and that'll blend into this area. But that's going to be flakes that aren't going to be really long because there's a valley behind here. Yeah, Paul, I do that. If I set up too high, I'm not able to. I don't pressure flake with my legs like a lot of people do. And when I sit lower like this, I'm able to. I use my upper body and lean into, like when I'm pressure flaking. But I also like my leg to be flat, and at whatever, you know, distance I have to sit. This chair that I modified, I sat in it for a couple of days and hated it because my leg was just a little at a downward angle, and had to end up cutting off like 2 inches of the legs because it just didn't feel right. And then I set this next to my old napping stool, and it's you know, almost the same height. You can just absolutely, Paul, you lose less width on it as long as you don't wrap them over too much. Now, I've had them, if you hit it too hard with too much support, I've had them take out the whole edge on another side. And that can be a little frustrating, but all it's telling you is you hit a perfect platform on a perfect convexity, and everything was ideal for that energy to travel as far as it could. Now, you know, if you're trying to learn, that's great that you did something, you know, really right. But if you've got a really nice piece going and you throw a flake that rips out half of the margin on the other side, it can be a little bit frustrating. So, but yeah, you can, William, you can, it's setting the thickness, because you can you can send those flakes, one right after another right next to each other, and what you get is a very uniform cross section. Especially, now not as, the Clovis, flaking was like that, but especially when you get into the Folsoms and the Daltons and the stuff that would have been a lot heavier. Let's see. And what they use them for. Oh, yeah, and plus you're getting big removals also, William. Each of those flakes that's coming off there is a cutting tool. But it is a faster way of doing it, as long as you're, like I said, if I would have tried any of those flakes before I set up the profiles for that, I would have had a whole bunch of stuff to try to fix right now. Whereas, excuse me, we've got a nice lenticular piece going here, and should end up with a nice little, I'd like to do a Folsom out of it, is really what I want to do. I've got a couple of casts that are really similar looking materials, so. Oh, thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. Well, it's like I take a lot of time. It's like you guys, you'll hear me say, everything that I do is the same. Oh yeah, well they're trying to reduce that material, William, because they're completely nomadic. They're carrying that stuff, and I would much rather carry this than the rock I started with. You know what I mean? So, well, yeah, but that was, once the villages started, you didn't have long-term living in a village until we started transitioning into an agricultural people. Prior to that, John, this right here is Rainy Buttes, and it comes from, I believe it's the southwest corner of either North Dakota or South Dakota. I can't remember right now. I think it's of South Dakota. Yeah, but you would find winter camps of the nomadic type people where you would see work being done, but on during the hunting season, that's my way of thinking, is they were gathering material to work in the wintertime more so, because hopefully at that point they've got their food stores, their meat's dried, they've got their dried food, their pemmican, their whatever, their stuff packed back, and now you're going to make hunting implements for the following hunting season. When the weather is, like you go out on the plains right now with being like it is, you're not hunting in that. You're huddled around a fire somewhere, making a point. So, I think that they were worked down into what I call quarry blanks from the source areas, and they were transported in rough form like that back to a camp. And again, every one of these flakes that's come off here that's any size to it is a cutting tool. You could use for any kind of thing that you would use a knife for. But yeah, the people that made the Clovis and the Folsoms, and then partly some of like the Dalton people and all that, but they were nomadic. They weren't living, in the same place every day, every of the year. They would live in this area for a few months, and then after that, they're traveling and carrying everything that they owned with them. So that's my other argument for the style on the Folsoms, and them being okay with breaking that many of them, because they had to fit a certain hunting system that they carried every bit of with them. And that's like I said, that'd be like a modern hunter going to the woods with a 30-06 and carrying 30-30 ammunition. You're just carrying extra weight for no reason. You know, if the hunting point that you made, you know, like if you made a fulsome point that won't work with your system, it's really weird because I made these based off of casts that I have. But if you look at the base of both of these, I didn't have them setting side by side when I made them, but they're almost identical. Each of these would be interchangeable in the end of a dart point. And they're small and they're easy to carry with you. So my way of thinking is that in a winter camp, they would have been making those. Yep, and that's what I'm saying, Blake. You know, any of this stuff that's coming off here is a cutting tool, and this stuff, especially high-grade material, was going to be used all the way down to the point where it was a projectile, you know, or a knife. We'll do another, and like I said, I've been working on the fulsome stuff again. I got a crazy, you know, almost obsession with learning to make them, and I'll get there. I've still got some profile and flaking stuff that I'm working on, but we'll do another deep dive into the fulsomes again, and I'll get some more material together. We'll do some study and look at some casts and all that again. Actually, we may do that tonight on the Wednesday night live. Do some talking about the fulsome cultures and stuff, materials and all that. Yeah, the Galt sight, Paul, is pretty cool. Blackwater draw is another good one. But yeah, a while ago, Paul, when you were talking about the edges and the control of that stuff, you know, I figured out a long time ago, it's almost like if you work in a shop, if everything is orderly and tidy and you know where everything's at, then you do, or at least for me, I do my best work. So, you know, if you keep your edges all, you know, where they're supposed to be, cleaned, you know, that there are no sharp edges or places where that, you know, if you leave a sharp edge on this, the chances of you breaking it at that point increase because it's weaker than the material around it. You want to try to get everything and keep everything as uniform as you can. And just turning these, that's another, you know, scalpel-like cutting tool right there. Another one right next to it. You know, that's razor blades, man. I mean, and you can see it's just changing the base of this, the profile that we're getting from it. And what I'm trying to do is I'm using that, each of those ridges, oh, let's see, somebody followed me. I couldn't see the name on it. Sorry, but thank you for the follow. All right. Now I'm going to start thinking in terms of, you know, for a fulsome preform, I want to try to start bringing this and squaring this up and getting a lens shape that we're getting there, but we're still a little clunky. Dakota, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. this is where we're going to set, you know, the starting convexity. From here, this is where each of these flakes gets a little bit more important, because if right now if I throw the wrong flake in and mess up the convexity of a certain area, and then have to go back in and refix it, get it set back up, then I'm going to lose a lot more material and a lot of size on my piece. And it happens sometimes. I mean, you know, everybody, you make mistakes, and you know, you guys watch me, I'll knock a bad flake off, and you know, I admit to it, be like, yeah, I kind of messed that one up. But I try to lessen those things happening as much as I can. So I start kind of flattening this end and building a platform or an area where I can reduce this width even more, or the thickness even more. It's one of the things I hate, though, is, you know, those beautiful big flakes that we had coming across earlier, the overpass or overshot flakes. We've now kind of obliviated those, but what we've got is, you can see from the base, you can see from edge to edge, it's very lenticular. From the tip, it's lenticular, and from the edge, it's lenticular, and that puts the most of the mass in the center of this piece, and it gives it the most overall strength that it can have, having that. That's why you see a lot of like the knives and stuff that are napped out of slabs, they don't have as much like tensile strength on a back and forth bend. They're sharp, you know, they'll cut, but they're any kind of torque and that flat cross section, it doesn't lend itself to supporting like this lens does. So, all right, I'm going to take this mass right here off of the tip. And the drips have stopped again, so the rain must have stopped. Get a little warm up here from the carafe. Oh, that's going to work out perfect. All right. Kind of get set up here. This is an important set of, or series of flakes on this. This is where, like I said, we're going to kind of set our, not our final thickness, but this is going to be setting up to do the final profiling, because it's got a lot of thickness to lose for a Folsom. It's, you know, I want this, and this series of flakes, I should cut the mass of this almost in half. Thank you for the follow. I missed the name on there, but thank you. I'll catch it here in a second. All right. All right, we've got a little bit of a spot right off the tip right here and a little tiny platform, and I'm just wanting to clean up the profiles of this. It's just taking that little bit of mass off that tip. I'm gonna come back the other way. I don't like it when I do that. One more. Nope. Something's not right. If I hit that and I know I hit that platform correctly 3 times like that and it didn't release, I need to fix that, or I'm gonna cause some issues. Now with antler, a lot of times you can do that, but you with a hammerstone or a, you know, if you're using copper, if you hit a spot 3 times like that, you've more than likely got some type of fracture started. So you want to go back in, grind it, look it over, and make sure that it's not going to break on you when you come back in with the percussion again. So what I'm doing here is same thing on a smaller scale, is I'm just kind of working my way up to that little spot, and you can see how I flaked this right up in front of it, and there's a little bit of a platform right here, and that's why this is an important spot, because there's a little bit of a step right here, and I'm going to try to go kind of skirt around it. Oh, Fitz, I must have missed your comment, but I don't know what toys, but tell you what though, I'm going to adjust that just a little. I'm going to drop it just enough to where it'll all right, much better. I feel much better about that one. What is it? Oh, Gomez. But I'm feeling much better now. Oh, thank you, Fitz. I appreciate it. Now this will release on the first shot really easily. And it skirted around that edge that I was wanting to. I didn't quite get as much as I wanted, but I'll get that on some subsequent flakes. There we go. Now I was saying on this series we're gonna remove about half of the mass of this biface. There's one of the first ones. Now that one went, see, now that one dove deep, and I don't know if that was me or you could see how that went in, and it's like a seam and then it dropped out. Now I may have been too steep on my attack on that, so now I've got to fix that. I got that one to kind of skirt right next to it. Yeah, there's a seam in there because that one's got some of it. Okay, I feel better about that. All right. And I was able to get right up against the edge of it, so it didn't really hurt us that bad. Got another area right here to come next to it. Are you talking about like toilet tank porcelain OBS? If you are, then it's that the toilet tank is really tough to pressure flake it. You almost want to wait until you just have to, yeah, just the last little bit. You try to do as much work with direct and indirect as you can, because it's hard to push flakes across that stuff. Yeah, that's what I can still see, Drake. William. There's like a seam that it ran right along and then it popped out, but like I said, I don't think it hurt us too bad. Because again, off this end, it's going to be kind of squared up a little bit more. See, and there's another big removal up from the base there. All right. But yeah, William, oh man, if you live over by Crowley's Ridge, that's good stuff over there. Some of it is, John. Some of that's really good. I've worked some of the Crowley's Ridge. I actually like it a lot. I've got a piece of it, I think, over here somewhere that a guy that lives in that area gave me some. Where was I at here? Get sidetracked. Right here. Yeah, William Fitz there has been watching me, we've been friends so long. He was watching me bust up this big cobble of obsidian in my garage 30 years ago, and looking at me like I had lost my mind. Now what we're going to try to do is we're going to set this edge up here, and I'm going to try to send one from this side and try to take out that little step area right there from the other side. So to do that, those little tiny flakes, you know, those edge turners where you're adjusting the profiles, you're trying to keep it as clean as you can. And then I'll also set up a platform on the back side of that problem area, so that if I need to go in and fix it, or if there's, you know, if my initial try going across the face of it doesn't work, then I'll have a backup plan. All right. Now let's try to get this area. Well, that actually spread into a little bit of it and got more of it than I wanted to. It's all right. We'll have to get it on another pass, or maybe not. We got the back side of it. We got enough of it that time so that my little flakes coming this way will fix it. See, that went out well past midway. Thank you, William. Now the delta, or the area in between those last two flakes, was pretty wide. And a lot of times people will just go ahead and hit it on that spot. And what you've got is you've got a platform that's wide, and you're not really trying to take a big flake. But what'll happen is that platform will break at the edges where it's sharp on either side, and you'll get a big lip flake a lot of times. To avoid that, just grind that down and make a smaller little platform out of it, like that right there. It helps to avoid it. It doesn't necessarily mean it, you know, keeps it from happening, but it lessens the chances, because that's all I wanted was just that little blending flake. But if I tried to take too big a flake out of there, it would have tried to rip a big chunk out of that. You can see now our mass, and I'm not even done with this series. I've still got flakes to take off this side. but how we've lost, even just from that one side, we've lost probably a third of the mass of that piece. Okay. Now this is the face I just took those flakes off of. We're going to set it to where we can come back to this side, and that should complete most of our a little flake I want to take right here, just a little blending flake. Yeah, crushed. Yep, it's not going to go there like that. Well, John, I appreciate that. I'm not trying to be, it's not easy. I mean, that's the thing. You know, a lot of folks, they watch you do, you know, a technique and they think, oh, that's the magic thing. It makes it easier, for me especially, and it'll take you the same amount of time to work on it that it will any other technique, but it's worth the time, for sure. Now that blister finally let loose there. I don't get blisters very often, but I've been doing a lot of pressure flaking on these Folsoms. More pressure flaking than I typically do. And then did that Dalton yesterday. I had, I don't know, there was 4 or 5 series of pressure flakes on that thing. But you could see the end result in it. But pressure flaking is, I can definitely feel it today. But yeah, the indirect percussion on my leg, it takes a lot of the physical, the parts that were harder for me, you know, and just makes it physically easier to do the same thing. But it takes the same amount of time spent with the tool to learn how to do it. You know, that's the problem is so many people, you know, they're looking for that instant. I always call them microwave popcorn. You know, they want to know what that one secret is, what that one thing is. And I'll tell you what it is. It's time and practice. That's it. That's I mean, yeah, I can give you a tip that'll help you with a little, but it's not going to make sense until you hit enough rocks and really try it and practice. You know, this is not a skill that you can just pick up and in a week later you're making these awesome points. It's just not like that at all. Yeah, well, Red Dalton. Well, it's right outside the Rainy Buttes saloon there, Fitz. But yeah, that's John. It'll help you if you pick it up. Now, if you want to check it out, I've got a video pinned right up here just go to my profile, and there's a video that explains everything about how this is set up. And then if you've got more questions, come back in and ask, or message me or whatever, and I will be happy to answer them, because I've been working on this technique for probably 4, 5, 6 years, somewhere in there. You're welcome, absolutely. And tweaking it and trying to get everything the way I like it, and where it works well for me. And it may be something that you have to change yourself to have it work that way for you. But if you work with it, the technique is sound. I mean, I don't know of any other way to transfer that energy that way, that accurately, with these type of tools. I don't know of another way. Doesn't mean there's not one out there. Fits, yeah, it'll probably go up for sale eventually. I'm kind of in love with it right now, but I'll let you look at it Monday when you come over for the KVO extravaganza. But yeah, if I decide to sell it, I'll give you first crack at it. Oh, that one, didn't like how that released. That's right back there in the last part of that seam that we were messing with a while ago. So there's a little bit of an issue in the back side of that, but we'll get around it. Well, doesn't necessarily mean it's expensive, Fitz. It just means that it's my favorite for right now. I mean, I've got a few that that it'll be hard pressed to get me to let go of. We'll go over those one of these. We'll do a show and tell again in a live coming up, because I've got a few that probably will be in my personal collection until it's not my personal collection anymore. I've kept approaching. Absolutely, Blake. It's and it's tied to the history. It's something I love getting out. We're getting to the time of the year now. Well, I've got several broken ones and bad flakes and stuff that I'll rework. I've got a Folsom here that broke. It had when I was pulling the flute off of it, it came from this end and fluted, and then it actually reverse fluted at the same time. So I've set it aside, and I'll set it up and make one out of there. I will suggest though, guys, as you make points, don't rework them. If you finish a point, even if you're not happy with it, set it aside, because what it'll do is it'll give you a roadmap of your progression. And you can see, I've been doing this for a long time, but these lives and going live, 5 days a week, sometimes twice on Wednesdays, I've gotten better as a flint knapper, because it's 2 hours of dedicated practice. Now, granted, I get off on a little bit of a rant every once in a while, and talk some, but for the most part, when I'm napping for you guys, I'm trying to do it the way I know I'm supposed to, as opposed to kind of, yeah, absolutely, Paul. You know, and the thing about it is a year from now, you're going to look back at those points and you're going to go, wow, I'm a lot better than I was then. You know, but it doesn't seem like you are until you see that reference of that work. I still got the first arrowhead, and I use that term very loosely. But when we do show and tell, I'll get that one out again. But it's a piece of raw Burlington that I was smacking on with a rock and a piece of antler, and it is one of the ugliest things I've ever seen. But it's also never going to leave my collection because it's a reminder of where I started, and I remember being proud of it. You know, so. Dropped my stick here, my antler. All right, now we've still got a really clean biface here. You can see how now this edge is turned more towards this face to remove the last of this mass. And then it will be a matter of bringing the edges in, setting the contour. There you go, Paul. Yes, Shane's been out here. He's seen the hillside and the rock garden and all that. Fitz has witnessed this from just about the beginning. I'm hitting too much angle. There we go. And a little hard. So, there we go. Now, right there, guys, that right there is a perfect example. I didn't follow my own instruction. And remember a while ago when I said something about the width of that platform. You see that little white remnant right there? That's where I had the tip of my tool. I just did what I told you guys not to do, and look at the result. You see that big lip on that flake and how it tore that entire platform off. That right there, and again, that's where I wasn't following my own advice. So now I've got a little bit of an indention in the edge of that piece that I'm going to have to fix. Whereas before, I would have, you know, if I would have taken that flake, then I would have had an area to get this last little bit. But that's a representation of just what I was saying a while ago. And if you'll notice, where I told you that it would break is basically where it broke, on either side of that platform. That's the weak spot. So, there you go. Kind of proof positive that, you know, even, what does it do as I say, not as I do kind of situation. But had I done what I was supposed to there, I would have not had to try to fix this little indention. I might have missed. Oh. All right. We'll see if we can throw a set to the other side, and then we'll have to start looking at pressure flaking the contours. Yeah, and that's all that was just you know, I just wasn't paying attention and doing what I was supposed to. I knew better than that when I hit it. You know, it kind of irritates me, but, you know, again, it happens. So you just go in and fix it. Try to remind yourself not to do it again. And some materials are worse than others. It's weird to explain. Any of you that have ever worked with any Rainy Buttes, it's almost what I would call soft. It's like, I don't know, it's got a weird texture to it. It's just really soft. And that is, it will lip like that quite a bit. And that's why I said it a while ago. I knew that. You know, and attention on my part. I mean, it wasn't so bad that we couldn't fix it and that everything's going to be just fine. But, like I said, it's just frustrating when you do something you know you're not supposed to do after telling somebody, don't do this. So, you know, that's, like I said, that's proof positive that, you know, if you do what you're supposed to in the ways that you're supposed to do it, the rock will respond the way it's supposed to most of the time. All right. Now we've got width to give up on the base because of the point style that I'm wanting to make. So I'm going to try to set that up to be and that will happen, guys, on pressure flaking too. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Fits, they will, and you know, when you think you're home free, that's when it'll get you because of the lack of attention or you know, that was what that was, is I just got sloppy, you know. And if you do that, the rock will remind you. You know, that's where that was at. And it's, like I said, it's going to be okay. It's just a matter of just trying to make sure that I'm keeping the contours right and I don't create more crap that I got to fix. And part of it, you know, too, is when you don't work with a particular type of material very often, you know, they've got their little idiosyncrasies and their little things that, you know, those of you that have worked very much like Kia cook, you know, you want to make sure that you grind that material. It likes a really almost rounded platform. Ed works a lot of Kia cook. In fact, he came down here, I don't know, a couple months ago or something like that, to the quarry where that comes from in Quapaw, Oklahoma. But that stuff, you know, if you work a lot of it, then you get used to its personality, so to speak. And this rock, being soft like it is prone to those lip flakes like that. And I knew that. I just should have been paying a little bit more attention. So, yeah, it was weird. I had set this out yesterday, and then I saw that Ed had done a fulsome out of some petrified wood. So wasn't trying to copy him, just had this laid out there, guys. So I'll tell you what, we're gonna get something with a little bit more leverage on it. Hey, Belinda, how you doing? Sorry, I was trying to, had my head down here trying to work a little and not screw this up. I'm not real happy. I've got a couple of spots in it that I'm a little discouraged with, but overall, not too bad. Now at this stage in it, you'll see me do this a lot more. It's just adjusting edges with a pressure flaker. And all that is, the reason is because I can be a lot more precise with how I'm directing that angle. And we're at a point in the profiles that each little flake can make a big difference. Each removal. Well, I just about tore that one off. Ugh. Well, those of you nappers, you know when you lose a callus or wear a blister into one, it gets a little bit uncomfortable. Let's see if I've got a... Well, yeah, there's one. Try to get something over that. It'll probably come off before the end of the live. We don't have too much longer here. Just something to cover that up to keep it from, yeah, that's going to fall off, but I don't have a lot more pressure flaking that I need to do at this point. Right now I'm getting ready to do a little bit more indirect. Let's see. Hey, Justin's back in here. These are the type of pressure flakes that end up hurting me quite a bit because of these are like a heavy downward force. But I need them to be a heavier flake so that they're kind of rolling that edge. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. You can see how that kind of beveled that edge. And what we're trying to do is we're rebuilding convexity. We're trying to maintain that. Now that I've got my my overall thickness pretty close to what I want for the fluting process. Now I'm setting up edges that I'm going to be able to isolate a ridge for that flake to run down. All right. Well, we're getting pretty close to the end. I'll work on this some more tomorrow, but you can see the cross section of that. There's from the base. We've got a nice lens shape. Our first flute, we're probably going to try to take off of this face here. I've got some edge work to do. There's going to be a lot of pressure flaking coming in from. Yeah, this is real close to the cast that I have in this stage. So, well, thank you, John. I appreciate it, man. That's why I do it. You know, I mean, I enjoy sharing with people. You know, that's why I do. I encourage you guys, ask questions. You know, comment. There's no such thing as a dumb question. You know, the only time that it could be dumb is if you don't ask it, because then you don't know. You know, if you ask a question and I can answer it for you, I definitely will. And if it kind of helps, you know, avoid some of the misinformation out there and all that, yeah, that sweat, it's coming right off. You see, I tore part of a callus off. This one here is a heck of a callus from what I do, but all this pressure flaking I've done, I must have had a tool that had a spot in it that just wasn't agreeing with my callus. But that happens when you use tools that have, you know, rough spots and all that stuff on them. You can see these are not, you know, they're worn down smooth, but if you get one in the wrong spot, it can rub you raw for sure. But now, guys, I will be back on here this evening. That's the plan. At 8 p.m. I'll come up with something to do. We may not flint nap. I don't know. I may flint nap a little bit more. Or if I'm feeling up to it, I may do some pressure flaking on this. I'm really happy with the cross section and the way that this is coming out. It looks like at the very least we're going to be able to make a Clovis out of it, but I'm hoping that I can keep the profiles right so that I can get a base to tip flute on this thing on both sides and make a really nice Folsom. It's one I made Saturday. You guys have seen. I got it fluted. This side it came up here and then kind of chattered up. It almost went to the tip, and then this side it went off the tip. So hoping that we get something that's a little bit wider at that point, and then I can bring it in and make it look right on, John. Yeah, I appreciate it. 8 o'clock tonight, guys. Now that's the thing about this stuff. You see how red and it's like rust. Now I will say that this stuff, when I work this, I know that it lets off a little bit more dust than a lot of the other types of material that I work. So, but anyway, get a little rusty. John, you have a blessed day too. I appreciate it. And yeah, if you guys want to tune back in later with some questions, what would you like to see later? Let's do that. We got 3 or 4 minutes here. Let's anything in particular that I could put together today that you might like to see later? Any kind of technique, or because I can do different camera angle. If you guys want to see like how the punch works up close, I could do a lower camera angle or try to get an angle that would show you how it's setting on the platform. Any of that kind of stuff, guys. That's, I just don't want to bore you with what I want to do all the time. So I'm not the one watching me. So like some nunchucks or a sword or something cool. The setting, the twist. Well, John, the twist on a Dalton is just because of the repeated, they sharpened it off of one face. I don't know if I've got just a quick little biface here I can show you. Let's see. That's some of my raw stuff we picked up out here. But as your bolos from Hammerstones, I could do that, Paul. Or make like a little leather bag with some of my, well, and that's what a lot of people call them game balls, guys, but I'm certain that a lot of what people refer to as game balls were just, well-loved Hammerstones. This thing used to be square and have all kinds of edges, but it's, they'll just naturally work into a little ball shape. But yeah, we can do all kinds of stuff. But no, I was trying to think, let's see if we can do this real quick. We might be able to. I'll grab a small Hammerstone I can show you quick with this. John, let's see. All right, so on a Dalton point, unless the napper was left-handed, the sharpening for that is going to be where the tip is pointing this way on both sides. So now they would normally have pressure flaked it. I'm just doing this to speed up the process. Okay, and then it's just flipped and it's the same side on the other side. And they were what's called unifacially sharpened down to close to the hafting area, and then the hafting area is typically twisted in the opposite direction. So as this is sharpened and it gets dulled and it resharpened and dulled and resharpened from the same sides, well, it's not starting to show yet, but it will after a few flakes here. Now you can see a little bit, and it's not as good of those are a little steeper than they should be. But basically what it amounts to is the sharpening flakes were taken off of one face. Yeah, this is gonna work a little bit better. I'll just do the tip this just so you can get an idea. Because the twist that you're seeing wasn't put in on purpose. It's a byproduct of the sharpening process. Yeah, John, that is exactly the reason why. And I'll show you. As soon as you see this, you're going to recognize what I'm talking about. And what the reason that that's done that way, or my belief, and what I've read a lot of, it's conserving of the material. I can make a super sharp serrated edge just pulling a series of flakes off this one edge. Now I think that a lot of the Dalton knives and that kind of stuff. Okay, now you can start seeing a little bit of that. You see how that twist is starting right there in the tip, and how there's a bevel on this side, and then when you flip it, that bevel is here again off this side. And what that is it gives you that twist. And that's what a lot of people, I've heard people say, oh, they did that so that the arrow would twist in the air. No, that's BS. That's just somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about, trying to say that, you know, act like they do. Once that's done like that and sharpened, now it's ready for use. And then when you go back to resharpen it, you come off the same face. And you can see that if you look at casts of artifacts that have been sharpened, or even the real deal. Now, like I said, if it was a left-handed napper, a lot of times that would be opposite. But those flakes are taken off of one face, then it's flipped in the same way, and that's what creates that. Well, and I believe that, Paul, some of the stuff that's more like this, I believe that, you know, because they were using, you know, they went from, and I'm sure there were some hand-thrown spears, but for the most part, they were atlatl chunkers, you know. So I think the larger stuff that you see is more than likely, I mean, yeah, it could have been a hand-thrown spear, but more than likely, I think they were knives, and I think they were denticulate knives, and they were made for cutting. They used them to cut wood and bone. I mean, this thing, if you guys have any kind of, I mean, you can see that just absolutely annihilating that. I could cut through that bone with this tool, and then that right there didn't necessarily dull it to where it wouldn't cut. But if you want that super sharp edge on there, and you just go back in a series of flakes downward like that. And now you've got a brand new sharp edge on that. And again, the same on the other side. You just, to get that fresh edge. And it should start showing a lot more of the twist now. Absolutely, John. Well, like I said, man, I try to do that if I can. I don't know a lot, but I have spent a lot of time researching a lot of this stuff. So, if I don't know the answer to a question, I'll tell you I don't know, and I'll go find out before, we get together again. So, but anyway, guys, went a little longer than normal today. We're going to be back on 8 p.m. tonight till 10. So tune back in. I think we'll probably have a little sleepy time tea. Won't be any more coffee, but we'll get together then and come up with something. So you guys have a good day. If you're out there in the snow or the bad weather, be careful. Stay in if you can. Take care of yourselves and others, and keep chipping.